So deadline day has just begun. It's roughly 9:06 in the morning to timestamp this because I know that everything we say will be out of date immediately. And I'm here with Michael Normanton from the Square Ball. First of all, how are you doing?
Not bad, thank you. Not bad. It's been an all right day yesterday, so just hoping for nothing to go wrong today.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say it's been an all right day today, and it's like we've not had time for it to go wrong yet, so we can just wait.
I did notice Luis Sinistera trended on Twitter as I woke up, and I thought, oh no, that's not good. I just want him to have a nice, quiet day.
Yeah, I've got the fun job of writing various things about Leeds United's transfer business, and I got someone mention something to me on the grapevine about Lewis Sinister, and I was like, I don't want to write this one. I get paid for it, but I don't want to.
Yeah, so
Um,
just fingers crossed on him.
oh yes. On the subject of yesterday and getting players in and Lewis Sinister potentially leaving, the first question is, what are your thoughts on the window so far, and how are we doing?
Can you have a window of two halves? I feel like it's been a window of two halves,
I think so.
if that
Yeah.
counts. Obviously, early on, it just felt fairly catastrophic because everyone was leaving. There was no money coming in, and it took us a while to start doing meaningful business, I would say. I mean, obviously, Sam Byram now looks like a decent signing, but he kind of came in, and that was a bit. At the time, it felt a bit like, oh right, we're doing it this way, are we? This feels like a kind of a cheap option. It feels a bit like Leeds United of old. And then as things have ticked on, and I suppose Ampadu was done early, wasn't he? But then I think the Pirot thing the other week just felt like it was a statement. Was that to say, oh, actually, no, we are just going to go out and buy someone good in a position we need. So overall, I suppose the departures are mainly people I don't care about leaving, but at the same time, I would have liked to get some money for them, and it feels a little bit like we've been saddled with these players for, I suppose, for the next couple of years potentially. Just if we don't go up, we're still probably sending them out on loan. If we do go up, I guess some of them will come back and be interested in playing for us again, and then we're still trying to move them on probably. So that the situation we were left with was not ideal, but I feel like overall, probably Jack Harrison and Max Verber aside, I don't I don't particularly mind most of the players who've left. They were the two I thought would be useful, but equally I was Harrison in particular. I kind of thought would go, although I did also think we'd be getting a fee for him. So that's a disappointment factor, but yeah, generally speaking, the incomings all seem very sensible, and it feels like we're starting to address the balance of the squad a little bit as well. Because looking at the team that we started the season with, you obviously look at Gray and Ampadu, who've been brilliant in midfield, but equally there's not a lot beyond them. And we see people like Greenwood's gone out on loan now, and JB's gone out, but we seem to have brought in more experienced players in their place, and it just gives us a bit more strength there. So overall, no complaints really.
Yeah. As much as we like Gray, the fact that he's played every single match this season so far isn't necessarily something that you'd want going into a season,
No,
considering we've played Shrewsbury and Salford.
yeah, and it's a we know the championship's a very heavy season for people. I know Click did it, but it's unusual for people to get through without picking up an injury of some sort. So even if the rests are enforced, you do need some cover there. And I think at the age he's at, Gray probably needs some. He needs some time out of the team. To talk back about Sam Byram, like when he first came into the team, and Warnock just played him for 90 minutes every single week because he was our best player, and I think that probably led to him, breaking down on a few occasions later in his career. So
Yeah.
I'm happy to blame Warnock for anything, though, to be honest. So maybe it wasn't that, but I just think we need to treat Gray with, treat him very carefully because he's obviously immensely talented, but let's not break him.
Yeah. So for me, it's a position of if I'm rating the window out of 10, the best I think I can give it, no matter what happens today, is roughly an 8 because of how the start went. Would you sort of agree with that? Because having lost all those players without any money in, although there was a little bit, I think, for Cock, we got a loan fee as well as the wages paid, but nothing beyond that. Would you sort of agree with that?
I
Luckily.
think so. I think a left back in today and Sinistera staying, and I would probably go up to a 9 or a 10 on it because
Yeah.
I think they're probably the things that we still need to address. Maybe a number 10 as well, although I was really keen to have a number 10 at various points in this window, but I think as the squad's developed and we've seen Sinistera and Somerville and Nonto now looking like they're going to stay, and extra reinforcements a bit deeper in midfield, I can kind of picture how the team could work without it because I think there's
Yeah.
enough in the wide areas to unlock teams, and with Pirro in the middle as a focal point, I think we can probably play a slightly different style. If we were going to go into the season with even with a fit Bamford, I feel like we probably needed a number 10 there. But if Perot can be more of a focal point up front, maybe just having loads of really good wingers to play alongside him is enough.
Yeah. I feel like on the number 10 thing, it's not that we didn't have a 10, it's that they were forced to play at 9, because Rutter is effectively a number 10 when he was playing alongside Joel Pirro. And similar for Gelhardt, who clearly isn't a very happy number 9, although he's not. It's really harsh to say that he's not great at either, but he's not sort of shone, if you get me.
Yeah, I'm really disappointed the way he's dropped off. I'm sure he is too. But it's I don't know, when he came to the first team just off the bench, he just looked so promising, and he could sort of wriggle through tight gaps, and he felt like he was taking people on. And the other night, it just felt like, maybe because of the position he's playing and the role he's being asked to do, but it just felt like all he was doing was dropping short and then playing it backwards. And it just felt like a completely different player to the one we saw in the early days, like when he came on against Wolves and caused chaos, won a penalty, scored the winner against Norwich. He was making a real impact on games in his early days, and it feels like it's been a very long time since he's done that. And I know he got the goal against Shrewsbury, but it essentially bounced off his leg and went in, didn't it? So he's not carried an awful lot of threat for a while. So I think there's talk of him going out on loan as well, isn't there? Which I think would probably be a good thing for him, because, mind you, I thought that last season when he went to Sunderland, I thought he just needs to go somewhere and play games and he'll come back stronger, but doesn't really seem to have worked for him. So
it could be a question of if he's got I don't know if this is the right phrasing, but like a touch of the Bamfords about it, where he needs a bit of confidence to sort of get rolling, and then just about not getting promoted with Sunderland might have thrown that off or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, possibly. And maybe if he feels he's not being put at the centre of the team here, it's obvious, I guess, in the way we've constructed it, that there's not necessarily a space for him. So maybe he's starting to see his future elsewhere. I'm not sure. It's not worked for him under several managers now, has it? Because it's right back to Bielsa, who used to consistently bring Tyler Roberts on instead of him, through Marsh and Gracia and I suppose Allardyce was he was out on loan at that point, wasn't he? But it feels like a few managers have had a look at him and not quite known what to do with him. So
yeah.
I don't know. We'll see where he goes. I think he's a very talented player still, but it's just he doesn't seem to really work in our system.
Yeah, it's just getting that talent out, really. And with Allardyce, he wouldn't know what to do anyway. He played 6 at the back in the last match of the season, so
yeah, he's not very good for getting on the long throws, is he? So
no. So we've talked a little bit about it. How do you see the season as going so far, and roughly where do you think we'll end up towards the end of the season? I know it's hard to say when we've still got potentially business to do, but
it's been really up and down, because I saw us against Cardiff and I thought we can probably win the league here because we looked so dangerous going forwards, and knowing the players in the squad, and then literally within a few days, probably I think Sinisterra probably is our best player when he's on form, and Nonso had gone on strike effectively, and I was thinking, okay, and we're still not particularly making other signings, and I was thinking, okay, maybe this is looking a bit more kind of mid-table. If the season pans out that we do have to have, not that we've seen enough of them to make a judgment on them, but if it was looking like maybe Poveda and Greenwood would be key parts of the team for a while, because you think, well, there's not much else there, and if there are your options coming off the bench, it didn't feel like there was necessarily an awful lot of depth there. So from that into Ipswich and seeing that attacking lineup fully there again, along with Perot, and it looked really good again. So defensively still pretty shambolic, but we've done, I guess bringing Spence in will help to remedy that as well, because he's got the legs to get back and forward, whereas Luke just has the legs to get forward these days. Unfortunately, he looks completely beaten, doesn't he? When he's made that run upfield, he doesn't do the getting back bit anymore, which I guess several years of trying to do that right hand side will take its toll on you. So. I suppose if it comes to the end of the season and we've missed out on promotion by 3 points, we'll feel we should probably have sorted some of this stuff out earlier in the window, because we have essentially forfeited a couple of games here, I think. But I guess the promise of the early games was that even against Birmingham, which was our worst performance, I would say, we still nearly got something from that.
And we still only lost because they did we lose? Did we draw? Either way, they punched the ball in. So
yeah, well, we lost against Birmingham.
It was West Brom, wasn't it? Yeah,
that was the Dan James penalty, and then West Brom again should have got something, but the ball went in off someone's hand, so they don't count. Is what I'm saying. But I think there's enough there to know that I mean, you just need to look back at old Championship sides we've had, and this is like absolutely leagues above them. Particularly up front, I think there's so much talent there that we can just get out of this division at the first time of asking if we can just put the run together, which we've seen Farke did at Norwich. Started fairly poorly, but then just put together several runs in a season where you win in 7 or 8 games on the bounce, and you just fly up the table when you can do that.
Yeah, you don't even have to look long ago for a team that's gotten promoted and not been that great. Because if you look at Luton right now, they've had some upgrades, and their best player is Ross Barkley, which is a bit weird. But yeah.
And
so
I think back to last year as well. Sheffield United lost 11 games, still went up. When Forest went up, they were bottom of the league for a period at the start, weren't they? And then just put together a run. And obviously, it was playoffs, which we don't particularly want to be doing. But you never know. It's better than nothing.
One of the 3 has to. So why not us? Let's make it a bit dramatic. Ipswich didn't win in something like 7 last season. I think they got to the playoffs as well, if I remember right.
Right.
Something like that. Okay. So something that the Square Ball have made a bit of a tradition of is a interview with Angus Kinnear before the season begins. That slightly changed this time round. It's an after the window one this time. Are you looking forward to it? A nice catch up with you, good mate Angus?
I am actually, yeah. It's interesting that he was like, yeah, I'll do it, but after the window, because I think at the time, if it was pre-season, it would have been a very different interview, and I guess he was trying to get some stuff in place to go, look, I know stuff was broken, but we have fixed it. Now, what his role in it's interesting because he's obviously the one that's left behind in all this, and when Farke has been doing his press conferences and saying this is a unique situation, we're the only club in Europe who has this situation with all the players leaving. Obviously, Kinnear was there for all those contracts being agreed, while the manager's saying, what on earth is this? So I do kind of wonder how that works in the background, or whether Kinnear's been able to go, look, I did tell him. You just don't know, do you? Because I guess that's where Kinnear's position is awkward in it, because Victor Orta was very much the football man in it, so the actual nature of the signings, the building of the squad, that was his job. And then Radrizzani was the man making the money decisions. So whether or not it was... I mean, Kinnear's hinted at this with... I think he spoke to the Supporters Trust about this, and I think he was saying that essentially reading between the lines, the old ownership didn't have enough money to gamble on not having these clauses in if we went down, because we needed to know we could offload these players or have them on massively reduced wages. And if you're offering massively reduced wages, you need to also
offer a way out.
You need to offer an exit for these people as well. Now, the way it's panned out, I don't know if they expected to be able to keep a few of them. And also, as we went down, you had Rasmus Christensen, Max Verber, people like that saying, oh, no, we're going to stick around. And then obviously...
And then didn't,
You kind of wonder if the reality of the first paycheck being halved hits, and they go,
yeah, maybe not.
I could just earn twice as much as this, couldn't I? And if you can get me out of here, you can do that. So, how much of that is Angus's fault? I don't know. He's in some ways a fortunate position that he can just blame other people for the bad stuff that happened. But I know, I guess, if he's going to do that, we can also try to take credit away from the good stuff this summer. so was this you, or was this you? The good bit was me. The good bit was me.
Yeah. You don't know the extent to which he was saying, "Are you sure about that, Victor? Is this really the right way to do it?" He might have just been told, "Yes, they've got a release clause," and not been told that it was for some reason a loan instead of a deal. It's a weird one.
Yeah, because the club were putting stuff out as we were going down as well. The club were putting out reassuring statements saying, "No, it's okay financially. We've got these clauses in where everyone's going to drop wages," and everyone was like, "Okay, cool. That seems nice and safe." And then it turned out, but they can also leave basically without us getting any money. So I suppose it's a double-edged sword. Obviously, the last time we went down from the Premier League, we didn't have any of this, and it meant we were still paying big Premier League wages, even to players who were actually at other teams, so people like Danny Mills and Robbie Fowler and people who had left, and we were still having to pick up the tab for that. So it has avoided that. It's just that I suppose it felt like at the start of summer it was leaving nothing for a rebuild, but it turns out, I guess, we have now spent some money, and it seems there has been flexibility in there to bring some players in. So It'd be interesting with Kinnear, and I think there are other questions to ask as well. The stuff about, I mean, ever since we first spoke to him when he first came in, I went and spoke to him for the magazine at that point, and even in the early days, it was about getting Ellen Road back, getting the stadium developed, and as we've seen, like nothing has happened beyond some big floodlights that we had to have for the Premier League. Like not a thing has happened.
Yeah.
I think some new hand dryers went in summer, and that's kind of the extent of the refurbishment. So
No, I'm sure they scraped the odd pie off the wall, maybe.
I think the rats just came and took care of it eventually, bit by bit. So it'd be interesting to see where they are on that, and also just to talk about things a bit like the ticket prices, because I know that it's like 48 quid, I think, now, if you just want to buy a ticket on the day for a match.
It's to the extent where the only match as a non-season ticket holder I've been able to get to in the last 12 months was one where I was in the press box for.
Right.
Because it's not super justifiable to be like, I'll spend 50 quid and a train ticket to get over to watch Leeds when there's always the online radios.
I wouldn't know about those.
No idea. Not heard of it.
But yeah, I must admit I was a bit shocked because I've got a season ticket, so I've been unaffected by it. But just occasionally you sort of see the prices, and because it was the other week when there were still some tickets available for the West Brom game, and you did look at it and you think, oh, it's a bit of a shame there's tickets available. But then you think, well, it's not gone on general sale, and it's 48 quid. So you're already going to have to have stumped up 60 quid for a membership to be able to buy a
something like that, give or take, yeah.
To have been able to buy a 48 quid ticket. So if you're looking at over 100 quid to go to a single game, which is too much, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I know it's the way football is, but it's not the way. Given they still have hung up in the East Stand window, they still have the Footballers for the Fans T-shirt from the Super League stuff, and you think, 48 quid to sit in the top of the East Stand to watch a Championship game is too much.
Yeah, football is for some fans and those that were lucky enough to have season tickets. So on the Angus thing and his colleagues, what are we thinking about the new ownership at the moment? I think the general sentiment amongst people is broadly positive. We've not seen too much from the 49ers enterprises themselves, but for example, people are very much a fan of Larry Nance, for example, who came over to Elland Road a few weeks ago and had a few pints with various fans. So what's the general feeling?
I spoke to him. I met him. He said he was showing me his Spotify, showing how he listens to the podcast.
Oh,
he had loads of Leeds stuff on there. Actually, it was he obviously is fully bought into it. He donated to the walk we did as well, didn't he? Put $2,500 in, £2,500 in for that. He did as well. So
I saw that he did that on the first day or something like that.
Yeah,
everyone was looking at that and going like, "Oh, okay." So, and I think that was before he was formally announced as an investor as well. So it was like, guess he's buying in. Okay.
It was also the first time I'd ever heard of him. Truth be told, because I'm not a basketball fan. I know like Michael Jordan, and that's probably about the extent
Michael
of it.
Jordan, LeBron James.
Yeah, my son's kind of half into it, so I'm hearing some names now. But yeah, my knowledge of it was non-existent pretty much. So yeah, it's a bit of a strange one with the number of investors there, because there's obviously quite a few people who've put a bit of money in. Like I doubt, in fact, when in the Peacock, when everyone was saying him to buy a striker to Larry, he was sort of saying, look, I'm right down here on the ownership. I don't have any input into this sort of stuff. But the high profile end of it are people like him and John Spieth. So they're the front of it. But there are people just rich men who are the ones with the actual big stakes in it. It doesn't feel like we've seen a great deal of them since the opening, but as long as stuff is kind of ticking along, I almost don't mind that, because it felt like Radrizzani has not been particularly helpful in recent years, when he'd, like at this point last year, where he came out and did that interview saying it's impossible that we'll be relegated and things like that. You just think, well, what benefit is this to anyone, really? It was just stuff to raise his own profile. So I don't mind them just going about their business quietly. And likewise, it's nice to have had a focus on, when it's panned over to the director's box, you've not seen, Nick Hammond smashing up a TV screen or yelling abuse at anyone in the West Stand. Just going about things quietly and professionally is kind of all right for me after the way the last couple of years have gone. So, and likewise, I think on the pitch with Farke, it feels like quite an antidote to all of it, really, to Marsh's just relentless positivity bullshit that he was putting out, while seemingly not having any idea how to actually change things, through to Allardyce's "I'm better than Pep" and all that ridiculous swagger he came in with, and then didn't win a single game. So the general picture, it feels like we've returned to being a lot more sane as a football club
Yeah.
over this summer. So for that, I can't really fault them, and they do seem to have done a decent job of the transfer window. I have to say, it's taken a while to get there, but I think overall, if you'd have shown me this squad at the end of last season, I would have absolutely taken it.
Yeah. As much as Allardyce had all that swagger and bravado about him, I didn't mind it too much because at the same time he was saying, why can none of these players run anymore? I thought they played for Bielsa. Marsh, what did you do?
Yeah, I think some of that was him trying to wash his hands of it as well, because I think he came in and saw it was probably heading for relegation and thought, I don't really want
Maybe
this.
not.
I don't really want this on my record, so I'm going to try my best to wash my hands. A bit like if you've seen the Warnock clip from yesterday, where he was essentially saying that about Huddersfield. He was saying, "Oh, I've not been able to sign any of the players I wanted, so what can I do, really?" And it was
Didn't he say something along the lines of, "I didn't know that the players we'd give new contracts would count as signings," or something weird like that.
Yeah. So I think there's been a lack of communication there, or it's Warnock talking bollocks. It's one of the two.
Maybe both. Who knows?
Maybe both.
I think another positive with the 49ers is you can't give an investment group a Twitter account, which has really helped, because there were a few times where Rodrozani would, for example, his Adam Forshaw tweet, it was like, I mean, yeah, we know we've got this player. We expect him to come back. That's not the problem.
And as well, with Rodrozani, it didn't help that you'd hear sometimes not very much from the club in an official sense. Then he'd just respond to a completely random person on Twitter, not a journalist or someone, just someone who's got a few followers on Twitter, and he'd bite back at something, and then it'd end up being a whole thread on there, and you think, why you don't do it this way? This is it just looks amateurish, and you don't really know what you're saying. Like you've always got the impression of him sat there with halfway through a bottle of red wine and with his phone in his hand, just thinking, yeah, I'm not having this. I'm gonna bite back on it. You just think, well,
It's like, Andre, you've got a media department.
just
Stop
don't.
it.
Yeah, exactly. So it'd be interesting to see where that where that goes, because I think we'll see a lot more measured communications from the club now, which I'm fine with. And the other thing on the new ownership is, I guess the positive from our point of view is that they don't get their money back until we're back in the Premier League, whereas under Cellino, under Bates, under GFH, it felt like we were there to be milked for a bit, and they could scrape a few quid out because they'd not put much in the first place. They knew they could get, however bad things got, you could get 20,000 people in Ellen Road. That's some money you can have to pay your wages with. Whereas this lot, unless they either get us back and get the money and some profit, or they have to write off the money they've put in, which to someone who's very rich, maybe writing off tens of millions isn't a big issue to them, but they can't want to do it, is what I would say.
Even from like a Schadenfreude point of view, if we don't go up and they have to sell on, it's like, well, you didn't get money either, so we're both a bit knacked, aren't we? Great.
Yeah, exactly. So it's mutually beneficial for us all to just to go up and see where it goes from there. So but as the window ends, it's looking pretty good.
So just to be clear, we're not going to get a tweet from the 49ers, or sorry, not a tweet, a DM to a random fan saying, this is a little bit shit in it, you probably deserve better.
I wouldn't have thought so. And also, like when Stellan Patel was on Twitter and he sent the Square Ball a DM saying, which of these wingers should we sign? And we were like,
I don't know.
have you not got scouts? Have you asked the manager? Probably ask the manager is what I would do.
Do you even have Y Scout? It's just
we did.
Football Manager would do the job.
Well, they did a Football Manager because that's where we signed. We didn't sign Ashley Barnes, wasn't it? Because his stats weren't as good as Luke Varney on Football Manager, so that's why we didn't sign him under GFH.
Oh God. Yeah, that must have been the years where I was either in sixth form or at uni and was just sort of tuned out of Leeds stuff because it all got a little bit depressing.
It really was miserable times. So I
was about for Beckford and Becchio, and then I just sort of drifted until I think it was Christensen where I drifted back in. My first match back was that FA Cup loss under him. That was fun.
Nice.
Yeah, it's an accurate reintroduction, I think.
Yeah, don't get used to a cup run.
Yeah. So last question is, what do you want to see from deadline day? And if we do see it, where do you think we end up at the end of the season?
I want to see a left back, but it doesn't feel like it, does it?
No.
I have to say.
I think Graham Smith tweeted yesterday that it's not on the agenda or something like that, and we're waiting for a Premier League club or something to potentially want to let one go or something weird like that.
Yeah, I mean there are movements that could free people up, I suppose. If Burnley or West Ham or someone did sign a left back and they have a spare, I can see we might get someone in on loan for the season. Firpo could be all right in this league, but he really can't defend. Is my issue, and I've seen him play pre-season matches against lower league opposition, and he really can't defend. Even to the point of the start of last season, we had that friendly against Blackpool, and he looked quite good going forward. But then the very first time,
But then he had to defend sometimes.
Someone ran at him. I was like, oh no, he still looks a lot like Junior Firpo, and also I don't think he's ever been fit for more than about 6 games in a row. So I don't think he's necessarily someone who can be relied upon. And the other option is Sam Byram, who's been very good, but is right-footed and also has been injured for an awful lot of the past 5 years or whatever it has been. So I would like to see us get cover there. That aside, I'd be quite content for everything to just stay. If we can finish with, I know there were bids for Somerville from Burnley yesterday, which we've dismissed. If we can keep all the attacking players, I'll be fairly happy, and hopefully we can just get by without a left back for another season.
Yeah. So all of those various articles that keep popping up in the Daily Mail saying we're going to get something like 5 new signings or something, probably bollocks.
I mean, probably, but I would take more players. Like
I'd definitely take more. Yeah.
I still feel we could be strengthened in probably most, other than wingers. I think we could probably be strengthened everywhere to an extent. And maybe centre midfield actually after yesterday. That's done enough there. But yeah, I feel like, I mean, we're still conceding a hell of a lot of goals, so it does make me worry about centre back as well. But maybe it's all just going to gel, and by the end of the season, we'll be saying why were we ever worried about this.
Yeah.
As the season as a whole, I think we still have it in us to go up automatically. I know we've not made a brilliant start, but you can put a run together in this league. It's not like the top of the Premier League where Man City might lose 2 or 3 games in a season, and that's what you need to go up and to actually win the title there. You can lose a load of games, you can draw a load of games, and you've still got the scope to go up. And I think if we keep Nonto, Sinistera, Pirro, Somerville, if we can keep all those players fit, I think there's probably too much for most teams in this league.
Yeah. And even on the defending point, we've got to remember we've got the likes of Liam Cooper out injured. So when he comes back, there's a little bit more leadership in the back line. And I feel like Cooper and Rodon could be a very strong centre-back pairing if it comes down to it.
Yeah, and throwing Spence in there hopefully helps as well, because he's got the pace to cover not only for himself, but if he's the one who can chase back and intercept counter-attacks and stuff. It's it'd be interesting to see how he transforms as I don't know if he'll go straight in on the weekend, but I think he'll be in there. He'll be in there soon enough.
Yeah. It depends on how much Farke are sailing to get back. I think. Well, we won't have to get back that much because it's, I think, Wednesday bottom of the table, if I remember right.
They are bottom. It's perfectly set up for one of those very Leedsy days where it's like I think they've got the lowest XG in the league as well. So
we're saying Glenn Kamara straight red card, lose 1-0 in the 98th minute. I think
something like that.
Something like that. Something nice and daft. Yeah. But we should just. I mean, the form and the players, and the fact that they're a complete shambles suggests we should be comfortably winning this. But I guess in some ways that is the beauty of the Championship, though. It's a very unpredictable league, isn't it? So, but let's just be predictable for a year. It's a bit like the year we went under Bielsa. I know it felt torturous along the way, but in the end we did just do it in a really simple way. Just won loads of games and went up by miles. Let's just do that again. One last question, because it just came to mind a minute ago when I was thinking about left backs or people that can play at left back. Do you reckon we see Dallas again? Not even just this season, just generally, because I feel like he might be a little bit permanently crocked at this point.
Yeah, it does feel a lot like that, I have to say. I did see him on a video the club put out the other day. They had a kid in at the training ground, and they did a little nice feel-good video. And Dallas was playing with a child, so he was on 2 legs and he was kicking a ball.
It's at least under 7s level already.
Albeit 5 yards across the gym, but he was there kicking a ball. But yeah, it's been a very long time now. I mean, you're going to be looking at 18 months, even if he comes back anytime soon. So it's a long time to be out. I mean, Forshaw did it, I suppose, is the argument to suggest it is possible to come back after that long. But I don't think we should be banking on him at this stage. But I suppose he's into the last year of his contract as well now. Or has he got
maybe
could have one more year on it?
look.
I'm not sure, but I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see him at all this season because it just feels like the initial prognosis was it'll be a year, but it's now been well over a year, and there's absolutely no sign of him back in training, playing under 21s or anything. So no, which is a shame because he was absolutely unbelievable for a few years.
Yeah, he's got a contract till the end of this summer, so to me it feels a little bit Berardi, where he'll come back for an injury with a 45-minute appearance on the last day of the season or something like that.
Yeah, hopefully once we've already got the title in the bag.
So something ideally not too intense, I think.
Yeah. But whatever happens to him, I don't really I know sometimes when players are injured, you kind of begrudge them their salary almost because you're like, oh, stuck with this person. Whereas with Dallas, I think, well,
you've probably earned it.
He doesn't owe as much, does he? So I just hope I hope he can play again, whether for us or for someone else, because he's he's not. You think he has a few more years left in him if he can get himself fit.
It's the same reason I didn't mind Jack Harrison going too much, because it was like, I mean, you're a really good player, you'd rip up the championship, but you've been here long enough, you've probably earned it.
And
you've done well enough.
He's only gone to Everton as well, which feels like a punishment. So
it's fine. Next season we'll be in the Premier League, he'll be in the Championship.
I mean, that is a fairly likely outcome, I would say. So we'll whether or not we get him back or whether we'll move him on again, I don't know, but I wouldn't mind. I think he's someone who would come back in and just get on with things. He's not. I don't see him as being someone who would agitate for a move, particularly even if even if he had to come back and play in the Championship next year, because Everton don't buy him. I think he'd probably just get on with it.
Yeah, he seems the sort of player to be. If he thought he wanted to move and we said no, he'd be like, oh, all right then, fine.
Yeah. So, but I mean, and equally, I don't mind him leaving this year because we've got probably slightly less consistent players in like Nonto and Somerville, but in some ways more exciting. They've got a bit more. Harrison is very much a sort of a 7 out of 10 man, I would say. Yeah. Whereas I feel like Nonto and Somerville have got a few 9s and 10s in them, which they can throw in now time to time. So, yeah, I don't know. I would have liked to have kept him, but maybe we're being a bit greedy given how many wingers we have.
Yeah, and even when it comes to having a 7 out of 10 man, I'd argue that Sinisterra is maybe like an 8 out of 10 with that same level of consistency, and he looks a little bit more fun. So
yeah, I mean, Sinisterra's finishing is brilliant as well. I get the feeling he's almost not even trying, and he's still the best player in the team at the moment. So just more of that.
A little bit Pablo-esque, where he just picks up the ball and goes, all right then, I'll play that through ball. Go on then.
Yeah, it's just very, very good. Far too good for this league, truth be told.
So, in summary, we're saying window's been all right so far, could do with a left back. Season so far hasn't been great, but that's because we're building something a little bit better. Angus Kinnear interview should be very, very fun to watch and interesting. Ownership is all right and not insane and doesn't have a Twitter account. And sign a left back.
Pretty much. The thing is, ownership's always fine until it's not, isn't it? Like with
yeah, that's true.
Derby fans loved Mel Morris, didn't they, for a time, and then things turn and you realise what's going on, because you only ever get to see the accounts a year after, don't you? So often by that point it's too late. So you never fully know what's going on at a club, do you? But yeah, early signs I would say seem pretty promising.
That's because they kept signing the England 2006 World Cup team and went, oh, they don't play anymore? Oh, shit.
Yeah. So these you can't go on forever, can it? This trying to get promoted thing. So we should just do it this year.
Ideally, but then again, Bielsa took 2, so we'll give him that much at least.
That's true.
Right, anyway, thank you, Michael, for your time. I'm going to wrap up the video there. Hope you enjoyed. Subscribe if you liked it, even if you didn't. I'd like you to. Yeah, see you later.